Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to Gnan Cloud Garage. So in this session, we are going to talk about vSphere features. One of the vSphere features, which is host profile. And here is the agenda. And first I'm going to talk about the virtual infrastructure challenge and solution, and what is the importance of host profile and host profile usage model. Usage model, we can also call it as host profiles workflow and host profile benefits, and finally we can perform the home lab. And the right side one, this is the icon for the host profile. So if you notice the icon, we have a ESXi host and it consists of profile. So that means it's a host to profile, and it's not only a single profile, we can prepare a multiple ESXi host profiles. So let's start with the what is the virtual infrastructure challenge and solution. Let's talk about this challenge first. Most of the scenarios, organization might have multiple vCenter servers, minimally two vCenters. One is for a primary data center, and second one for either a secondary site, or we call it as for a disaster recovery site. So organization might have multiple vCenter server instances in data centers around the globe. And on these VC instances, organization have a collection of ESXi hosts, must perform per host vSphere configuration that are taking longer time than expected. Like suppose if we see our ESXi host, let quickly log into our lab. Okay, when I connect to the lab, let's connect to our vCenter server. vCenter server login credentials. When we log into our vCenter server, suppose if I select, we have a 4 ESX host in our production cluster 1. When I select ESX01, right side, go to the configuration tab. In this configuration tab, we can see multiple settings. We have a storage settings, network settings, virtual machines, and system settings, as well as hardware and virtual flash. Under the configuration, we'll have all these options. So we are familiar with how to install the ESX server and how to configure the ESX host. In our previous sessions, we talk about how to configure the storage, how to configure ESX host networking, ESX host virtual machines, how to create the VMs, how we can modify the virtual machine, and ESX hardware information, system information, and virtual flash, alarm definitions, and schedule tasks. So these all the options are considered as a ESXi configuration. This is for a we know how to configure for one ESXi host configuration. The same procedure applicable for all other ESXi host. Even if you want to add either virtual switches or distributed virtual switch, we have to configure from a configure tab. And same way for ESX3 and same way for ESX4. But in our lab, we have a 4 ESX host. It's easy to configure for a 4 ESX host. Suppose in our organization, we have a 400 plus ESXi host. During that scenario, if you want to configure the ESXi host configurations, it may take some time to configure the ESXi host. So during that scenario, that point only I'm highlighting here. The customer's challenges must perform per host to vSphere configuration that are taking longer time than expected. Roughly, let's say all the ESX host networking, storage, and also the additional service configurations like NTP, network time protocol, SNMP, simple network management protocol, SSH configuration. These are all roughly for single ESX host. If it is taking a on average 1 hour time to configure ESX host. For a 4 ESX host, it will take 4 hours time. And if you have a 400 plus ESX host, we have to count like a 400 hours. So we have to put so much time to configure all ESXi host. So that is the one of the customers challenge in virtual infrastructure. And also apart from this challenge, what is the other challenges is how do we detect when vSphere host configuration has been changed? Let's say if it is a small organization, it's easy to identify when there is any change in a ESXi host. But if your organization is a very medium scale or large scale organization, we have minimally hundreds of ESX hosts in our vCenter. During that scenario, every time we cannot log into vCenter and we can verify the task and events which ESX host has been modified. Or suppose most of the time the production environment organization will run in a 24 by 7. Maybe the other shift engineer may did some change on your ESXi host, but you are not aware. But in order to verify all your ESXi host changes, when we have a n number of ESXi hosts, that is also considered as a one of the challenge. How we can identify if there is any configuration change. Configuration means whatever we see in our configuration tab, all the configuration items consider as a configuration item, configuration changes only. If you can did change on either network configuration or storage configuration or any of the hardware or any layer of configuration. Even if you restart the ESXi host or if you did some hardware maintenance, that is also considered as a configuration change. So to detecting this information also one challenge. And how do we verify all ESXi host compliance? So compliance means the practice of the following the rules. Every organization they have some security compliance, and also they maintain some security hardening guide for our all ESXi hosts. Based on the security benchmarks, they will apply, they will do the some hardening. So all this ESXi host make sure that it should be compliant. If there is any non-compliant, how we can identify the non-compliant ESXi host? These are all the most common virtual infrastructure challenges. In order to address all these challenges, the solution is VMware given one key feature. That feature name is host profiles. The host profile are the solution to this challenge, and it will eliminate per host vSphere configuration. That means instead of doing individual one host configuration, that it will eliminate the per host vSphere configuration. So that it is a one of the solution for this challenge, and it provides an automated and centralized managed mechanism for ESX host configuration and configuration compliance. And it can improve efficiency by reducing reliance upon repetitive manual tasks. Suppose one of our ESXi hosts, I created a 4 virtual switches. This same 4 virtual switches and network label name, VLAN ID, we should give the same vSwitch name, label name on our other ESXi host also. But if you're using a vSwitch environment, we have to create the same 4 vSwitches in a second ESX, third ESX, and so on, but it will take a longer time. But to reduce your manual effort, the only the reference is when you use a host profile, all your configuration part will be configured automatically on all your cluster associated ESXi host. But how we can configure and all, I will explain you in the following slides. Now let me give you a brief overview on the host profile. Suppose for our easy understanding, I'm taking a one ESXi host. So this is considered as a reference ESXi host or one of the master node, or it is a first configured ESXi box that is considered as a reference ESXi host. On this hardware, we have installed the VMware ESXi software. On top of the VMware, we created a multiple virtual machine. Let's say this ESXi host, as per our organization security benchmarks, we configured the complete hardened. So the same setting, configuration settings, whatever we configured on this reference ESXi host, we plan to assign the same settings for our other ESXi host. So for our easy understanding, I took the example of 4 ESXi hosts, and you can apply on a single host one by one. That is one method, and another method you can apply the host profile on a cluster level also. Okay, so that is the reason I mentioned as you can apply either host level or cluster level. If you apply on cluster level, it will automatically apply the host one by one. First, it will place the first host in maintenance mode, and it will apply all the configuration changes. It will restart, and again once it is bring up, it will go to the second host. That is the importance of selecting the cluster. But the procedure for the host profile is we have to create a host profile first. When we create a host profile on a ESXi host, this host profile, what it will do is it will capture all the ESX host configuration information to the host profile. So this profile consists of the complete ESXi host configuration details. These details, what it will do is it will attach, we have to attach this host profile to either on a single ESXi host level or we can attach on a cluster level. Once we attach this host profile, the third step is we have to check for a compliance. Compliance means whether all the hosts are configured as similar to our reference ESX host or not. If there are any configuration changes, that is considered as a non-compliant. So check for compliance means we have to review the which is compliant and which is non-compliant. Okay, so that is importance of third step. And when come to the fourth step, suppose if the ESXi all the ESXi hosts are compliant means there is no issues, we no need to perform any action. But in case if the ESXi host, any one ESXi host or multiple ESXi hosts showing as a non-compliant, during that scenario, what we can do is we have to remediate the ESXi host. Remediate, or we can also call it as a, we can apply this master host profile to the whatever the ESXi host showing as non-compliant, that non-compliant we can apply with this host profile so that the affected non-compliant host also will become as a compliant. Okay, so this activity we can perform any of the ESXi host, but the VMware recommendation is when you plan to apply the any of the host profile, it has to place the host into a maintenance mode. So maintenance mode means when we place the ESXi host into maintenance mode, it will migrate all the virtual machines to the another ESXi host wherever the resources are available. Okay, so this is a brief overview of host profile concept. Let me explain you the description. A host profile captures the configuration of a specific ESXi host and allows us to duplicate or replica the configuration to other host. So the entire configuration will be replicated to the other ESXi host. And clusters, wherever you apply, you can apply either on a single ESX or you can apply on a clusters, or to validate that host configuration meet the data center needs. So meet the data center needs means it's nothing but our customer requirements. Okay, and host profile help reduce manual steps in cluster host configuration. So you no need to configure individual ESXi host configurations manually. When you have a host profile, we can apply that host profile to all ESXi host. Okay, it's like a, it's not exactly to the Windows concept. Normally in a Windows we have a one known concept is group policy. If you want to apply any policy on your domain systems, laptops, desktops and servers, instead of doing in a individual system, what we can do is we can create one group policy, and that group policy we can push down from a forest domain level or domain functional, wherever the organizational unit you want to apply that policy, it will applicable to all the subordinate, or we can say all your sub OUs and all, it will applicable the all the policy group policy. Similarly here also ESXi host level, whatever we have in the configuration task items, these all the configuration task items, instead of doing manually one by one, VMware given a one feature called host profile. The only thing is first we have to prepare a one reference ESXi host. That reference ESXi host, from that reference host we have to extract the host profile. Extract is nothing but a creating a host profile. So this create host profile is nothing but a, it will extract all the configuration information and it will store it into a host profile. Once it is stored, the second step we have to attach this host profile to either on the ESXi host level or cluster level. Once we attach, and finally third step is we have to review the compliance or check the compliance. When we checking the compliance, if it is a compliant host, we no need to perform any action. In case if it is a non-compliant, we have to click on a remediate option. So we have to perform the remediate host, or we can also call it as a apply this host profile to the non-compliant ESXi host. Okay, now I'm going to talk about host profiles workflow or usage model. See, the host profiles workflow, we can also call it as host profiles usage model. The host profiles workflow start with the concept of a reference host. That reference host is the configuration of the reference host, which is extracted as a host profile and serves as configuration template for configuring other host. Okay, same point. Before we begin, ensure that we have an existing vSphere environment installation with at least one properly configured ESX. So as I mentioned, we need a one ESX host to create a host profile. And the sequence is required to create a host profile from a reference ESXi host. Apply the host profile to host or cluster and check the compliance against the host profile is as follows. So we have mainly 6 steps to perform the host profile usage model, or we call it as a workflow. So the workflow consists of 6 steps. The first step is set up and configure a reference host. So we can choose one reference host and create a host profile from the reference ESXi host and attach that profile to the our ESXi host or cluster, and finally check the compliance, and if it is a compliance, they are correctly configured. We no need to perform any action. Suppose if non-compliant or not compliant, apply the resulting recommendation to the host. So that applying the recommendation is nothing but a remediate. Remediate, we can also call it as fixing that non-compliant host. Okay, so this is the actual usage model. Now I'm going to talk about host profiles benefit. So what is our main end result or end goal while using this host profile feature? This feature, the main benefits to use these features is host profiles are defined by users and based on the customer requirement, and it captures blueprint of known or a valid ESXi host and automatically configure networking, storage, security, and other settings, whatever the options available in a configuration tab, and reduce the manual configuration step. That is one of the main benefit, and maintain the consistency. Consistency means all our vCenter ESX host within the cluster all should have a unique configuration. Even these configurations are important while when we are performing a HA DRS features and also the vMotion, SVMotion, all these features also in our previous sessions we did talk about the all vMotion, SVMotion should meet a certain conditions. Even that conditions also CPU family should be same family, and we must have 1 GPS network card, and all the ES virtual switch and DV switch network label name should be same name. Then only we can able to migrate the virtual machine from one ESX host to another ESX. To maintain all these conditions and all, we call it as a maintain the consistency within your vCenter level for all your cluster ESXi hosts, and automate the repetitive application of configuration settings. Like application related configuration setting means NTP, SNMP, and also the SMTP. Any of the settings if you want to maintain also, the all the repetitive tasks we can automate using the host profiles. Suppose I have a 4 ESX host in our home lab. In future, I'm planning to add another 4 ESX host. Again, that 4 ESX host, I need to configure the vSwitch, need to add the data stores, and also configure NTP, SNMP. Instead of configuring individually, when you attach the host profile to the new ESXi host, it will configure automatically. Okay, that point I highlighted here. Automate the repetitive application of configuration settings and help avoid configuration errors. Even if you are planning to do a manual task for all the configuration setting, there is a chances of human errors, or also there is a chances of any of the other configuration mistakes or configuration mismatches or errors. So when we are using a host profile, the benefit is it will avoid or stopping the all the configuration errors, and allow centralized monitoring of configuration and compliance. So this is the key item, and enable policy based detection and correction of a configuration inconsistencies. Okay, these are all the host profile benefits. Now I will show you the lab in our home lab how we can perform all these key steps. Okay, the first step, creating a host profile. So let me log into our vCenter. If you want to create a host profile, we have a multiple methods. The first method is you can select any of the reference ESX host within our ESX host. Let's say if I select ESX1, right click, you can go to the host profile option. Here we have an option to extract. This is the one method. And another method is go to the menu, vSphere client menu, go to the shortcuts. Even in the shortcuts wizard, You can see under monitoring, we have an option for host profiles. So this is the icon for a host profile. When we click on host profile, you can see currently host profile, there is no items found. If you want to create a host profile, the option is we have to extract the host profile. Extract is nothing but a creating a new host profile. You can extract from any of our reference ESXi host. I just click on the extract host profile and you can choose your ESXi host. Let's say select any one of the ESX hosts. For example, I'm selecting the ESX01 demolab.com. When I click on next, we have to provide any of the host profile name. You can enter any name based on your convenience. For example, I'm creating a ESXi 01 host profile, and our current version for this ESXi host is 7.0 U3. So you can mention same version. Suppose in future, if you have any other flavors also in your environment, the specific version you can create a separate host profile. Okay, but our host profile is 7.0 U3. I'm using the same name. If you want to enter the which host is reference host, you can enter the full host name here, ESXi01.demolab.com. The description can be flexible. We can enter any of the point here. So just for our easy understanding, the description I given as this ESXi host profile going to extract from a ESXi01. And now click on finish. So this is the host profile creation procedure. So if you see in the recent task, create a host profile in progress, the task status is showing as 0%. So it may take a while to extract all the information. If you see here, now create host profile is completed. Okay, when the host profile creation is completed, you can see the host profile is created here. When I select the ESXi host profile, you can see last edited is today's date. Okay, and vCenter name also it is showing. This is the one method. Suppose if you want to create host profile directly from the ESXi host, go to the inventory, host and clusters. Under the host and cluster, select the ESX2. Suppose ESX2, I'm going to create a host profile in a second method. Right click the ESXi host and now look for a host profile option and extract. This is also another method. Extract host profile, and here also for our easy convenience, comfortable, we can choose any name. Let's say ESXi02, and this one also the version is 7.0 U3. Okay, and description you can enter the ESXi host name also fine, ESXi02.demolab.com. Now click on OK. This is another method. If you see here in the recent task, the second ESXi host profile creation is in progress. But in the real time scenario, we can maintain multiple host profile depends on the scenarios. Normally one host profile for all the configuration settings, and another host profile we can use it for a version basis. Let's say one ESXi host profile maintain the 7.0 and another host profile will use with a latest patch 7.0 U3. And if your organization is still using the 6.7, we can prepare another host profile with 6.7 version. So like that, we can create a multiple host profile. It's not limited to only one host profile. That's why we call it as host profiles. We can create multiple host profiles. So when I go to shortcuts, click on host profile. Now we can see two host profiles are created. One is for ESXi01 and another is one for ESXi02. So now we understand how to create a host profile. Let me choose the minimize this vCenter server. Let me minimize. Okay, once I minimize this one, we can see the another point is attaching a host profile to a host or cluster. So we can apply any of the method. Suppose if you want to apply to the attach the ESXi host, again log into the vCenter. When we log into the vCenter, suppose I'm selecting a ESXi host profile 1. When I click on ESXi host profile 1, if you see currently cluster count is 0, host count is 0. That means this ESXi01 host profile we haven't attached to any ESXi host. Suppose if I want to attach to another ESXi host, go to the action, we can see the option for a attach option. Attach, detach, host and clusters. Suppose now I'm selecting a attach. When I click on attach, you can attach either on a directly on a cluster level, you can attach, or you can attach to a specific ESXi host. We already created two profiles for ESX1 and 2. So now I'm planning to attach this profile to the ESX3. So when we select ESXi03, now click on save. This is the method, we call it as ESXi host profile is attached. When you attach the profile, see it is showing as profile is attached, state is connected state, and the customization required yes, but host profile compliance status is showing as unknown. So that means we have to check for a compliance. If you want to check for the compliance, just select the ESXi host. In the right side, you can see the option for check compliance. If it is a non-compliance, we can click on the remediate. If it is a compliant, we no need to perform a further actions. Okay. Suppose if I minimize again, see the third point is that is the one checking the compliance. So how we can check the compliance is select once we attach the ESXi host profile, attach it to the specific ESXi3. Now select the ESXi host and right side you can just look for a check compliance. When we click on check compliance in the recent task, see if you see check compliance is 0%. We need to wait for a minute. It will complete the compliance. It will review the specific ESX3 whether its configuration is meet all the requirements same as our ESXi1 host profile. See if you see the check profile compliance status is completed, but when you see here the production cluster state is connected, but host profile compliance status is showing as not compliant. So not compliance means there is some configurations are mismatch. So to avoid this error, non-compliant one, what is the solution? We have to click on the remediate. So when we want to click on remediate, the option is see in the below also you can see non-compliant, what is the configuration mismatch. All information you can find from here. Okay, see uplink connections only it's showing some mismatches. Okay, to fix this one we can select the ESXi host and you can click on a remediate. When we click on remediate, it says that it will automatically reboot the host, and it is also saying that some hosts require customization, setting customization is required before proceeding with the remediation. So some configuration we have to do manual changes, then only manually if there is any changes and all we can validate first, and then only we can go with a remediation. That is nothing but a pre-check remediation. So just click on close, and now here select the ESXi host and click on edit host customization. We can see what is the options we need to edit. When you see here ESXi host 3 we are seeing, and ESXi host is considered configured with a few IP settings, and also it's clearly saying that few only options are able to change, the customization is required yes, that means we can able to modify, and some options we no need to modify. If no need to modify means it will default set it as a no changes is required. So when we see the S1, already configuration is correct. It's already configured with a proper IP settings. Once we reviewed, if there is any still changes are required in our configuration level, you can modify the IP settings. If all the IP settings are correct, just click on OK. So this is the editing the host customization. So now when you click on OK, see host customization validation is failed. Maybe the password is maybe password synchronization having some error message. Okay, parameter cannot be let unset. Okay, that means we have to set the parameter here. So let me set the password here. Okay, once we enter the password, click on OK. Now click on OK. Okay, now the editing the host customization is completed. Now we'll look for a pre-check remediation. Before click on remediate, when just click on a pre-check remediation. Still, if there is any changes are required. So running the pre-check remediation is in progress. Even in the recent task, pre-check remediation is showing us in progress 0%. Just wait for a minute and it will finish quickly. See, now pre-check remediation is 100% are available to review. So it is also showing as pre-check is failed. Now just select the ESXi host and now click on remediate to clear all those errors. Just select this one and click on remediate. So when we click on remediate, the ESXi host, it will place the host into maintenance mode and it will restart. Okay, currently see if you see the host profile is applied on a one host. The count is showing as 1. The same method we can apply the host profile on a cluster level also. It is saying that remediate operation could not be started because no hosts are available for remediation. So see the details for VMware. Okay, this is a feedback one, close. It is showing some error message. Let me expand and see the error message. So received some error messages which is related to the SOAP response. Okay, and also the local host, some network connectivity error. Okay, it's fine. So remediation cannot start due to the this below error. It's fine. Let me try with the another ESXi host because we have virtual ESXi host and one host is a physical ESXi host. ESX1, ESX2, ESX3 running on a virtual infrastructure and ESX4 is running on a physical infrastructure. Let's try for a physical infrastructure host. Again, go to the shortcuts and click on the host profile. Until now, before we start, let me quickly recall. See, we verified these 4 options. First, I created a host profile, which is nothing but a extracting from the existing ESX host. This part is completed. And second one, we attach the host profile to one of the ESX hosts. That means we attach the ESX1 to ESX3 host. That ESX1 host profile, we attach it to a ESX3. And then we check for a compliance. After we checking the compliance, we notice the result as a not compliant. When it is not compliant, we have to remediate. But before remediate, we did the pre-check remediation, and also there is some configuration mismatches. We corrected those mismatches, and finally, when we click on remediate, it is showing the other SOAP error message because our virtual infrastructure is not like a physical ESX box. It's on a virtual environment. It is running. So this kind of errors are expected behavior. Now we'll try to test on another ESX host now. The same 4 steps. Log into vCenter. Now I'm selecting a ESX2 and this ESXi2 host profile. See, if you see here, it's not yet attached to any host or cluster. If you want to attach, go to the Actions tab and click on Attach. Now I'm trying to attach on our physical ESX box. Okay, we'll test it on a physical ESX. Click on Save. So this is the method we are attaching the ESX. When you attach the host profile complaint, still it is showing as unknown only. But why it is unknown is we haven't checked for a complaints. That is the reason it is showing as unknown. If you want to check for complaints, select this option and check for complaints. When you click on check for complaints, see in the recent task, you can see checking complaints is in progress. Even in the recent task, it is showing as complaint. Once it is check compliance is completed, it is still showing as unknown. During this scenario, just refresh the screen. Okay, when you refresh here, it is showing as error message, unexpected error checking the complaints. The number of physical NICs of the host does not match the physical NICs on a proof. So it's correct because our virtual machine, our ESXi host profile is on a virtual environment and ESX4 is running on a physical environment. It is saying that physical NICs are mismatched. So once we correct this error, then we can good to go for a remediate, and also we can check for a compliance. Okay, but in our home lab, we are configured on a virtual environment, 3 ESXi host and 1 host on a physical host. So that is the reason when we are trying to do a remediation, we are receiving the error messages. But in the real time scenario, all our ESXi host we should configure as a physical ESXi box, and physical ESXi box is configured with a same model, same version, so that there will be no errors. But even if there is any minor configuration errors, we can see those errors in the during the compliance status. You will clearly find those errors, so that it's easy to identify all your ESXi host configuration mismatches as well as configuration errors. Once we resolve these errors, and still in case of any configuration additions, we can able to click on the remediate. Okay, but full-fledgedly we can unable to perform in the home lab due to the virtual and physical ESX host. But overall, the conceptual idea, this is only the options we can use using the host profile feature. Okay, so that's it for today. Let me update our checklist. Okay, so in our checklist, see, today concept is host profile. So let me make this as a green. Okay, the same host profile creation, attaching the host profile, and checking compliance remediate. These options you can also test in your home lab in the same way. But in the real time scenario, definitely the checking compliance and the remediation, it will go smoothly without any error messages. Okay, so in our next session, we can plan to start with any of the remaining features, either LCM I will start, or we'll go with the remaining features. Okay, so that's it for today. So thank you. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone. I'm receiving a overwhelming response, and I'm receiving so many emails every day. Thank you for all your support and positive feedback. And some emails, whenever I'm getting the time, I'm replying. Few emails, it's slightly taking delay, and sorry for that. Most of the time, whenever I get the time, I will try to reply all the emails. Okay. So thank you once again, and please do view, like, share, and subscribe to the my channel, NAND Cloud Garage. Bye for now. See you next time.